In the 41st millennium, damnation wears 1,000,000,000,000 faces. The Imperium has catalogued horrors that would shatter mortal minds, demons that feast on screams, Xenos that devour worlds, traitors who sold their souls for power. But what happens when something damned arrives from beyond the stars, carrying its own personal hell? What happens when the fallen meet the gene-forged angels, and neither side knows whether salvation or annihilation awaits? If you crave stories of cosmic collisions, where heroes from distant realities face the grimdark truth of the 41st millennium, smash that subscribe button. The Emperor protects those who bear witness to impossible crusades and the warriors who fight them. The sky above Baal Secundus burned. Not the typical radiation-scarred crimson of the blood angels' irradiated homeworld, but something worse. Something wrong. A wound in reality itself, hemorrhaging colors that had no names, vomiting energies that made the chapter's librarians scream warnings through the Vox channels. Warp turbulence had been detected 3 hours ago. Now it was tearing open like an infected wound, and something fell through. Captain Erastos of the Third Company stood on the northern ramparts of the fortress monastery, his gene-enhanced eyes tracking the object's descent. It wasn't a ship. No engine signature, no distress beacon, just a shape. Humanoid, wreathed in what looked like green fire and writhing chains, plummeting through the atmosphere like a meteor wrapped in blasphemy. "Auspex readings?" he demanded, his voice carrying the clipped authority of 3 centuries commanding the Emperor's finest. "Inconclusive, my lord." Brother Techmarine Valorian replied, his red helm turning toward the falling object. "Whatever it is, it's disrupting our scanners. The energy signature is... I've never seen anything like it. Not warp taint, exactly, but something that resonates with it." Erastos felt his jaw tighten. In his centuries of service, he'd seen demons claw their way from the immaterium, watched Xenos horrors descend from the void, even witnessed the corrupted remains of fallen brothers. This felt different. The wrongness wasn't pure chaos corruption, it was colder, more personal, like rage given form and purpose. "Dispatch 4th Squad. Containment protocols. If it moves, if it breathes, if it so much as thinks hostile intentions, they are authorized to purge it with extreme prejudice." The thing hit the desert waste 17 kilometers from the fortress, with an impact that registered on seismic sensors. Sand vaporized, rock cracked. When the dust cloud cleared, Brother Sergeant Dante, no relation to their legendary chapter master, led his squad forward in perfect tactical formation, bolters raised, targeting systems painting the crater with a dozen crimson targeting reticules. What they found should not have been alive. The figure lay at the center of a glass-smooth impact crater, steam rising from superheated sand. He wore what looked like armor, but it moved. Living tissue the color of dried blood and old bone, covering him like a second skin. Chains wrapped around his torso and arms, their links etched with symbols that made Dante's eyes water when he tried to focus on them. A tattered cape spread beneath him like spilled blood, and it too seemed to breathe, to pulse with unnatural life. But it was the face that stopped Dante cold, pale, gaunt, eyes that glowed with sick green fire. though they were currently closed, and yet, somehow, impossibly, the features suggested something almost human. Not Xenos, not demon, but not entirely mortal either. "Throne of Terror," one of his battle brothers whispered. "What is it?" The figure's eyes snapped open. Green fire met crimson lenses. For a heartbeat, neither side moved. Then the chains erupted. Al Simmons, Spawn, Hellspawn, the reluctant soldier of Malabolge's armies, had approximately 30 seconds of consciousness before agony caught up with him. Whatever had happened in that dimensional transit had felt like being torn apart at the molecular level and reassembled by something that only vaguely understood human anatomy. K7 Letha, his symbiotic suit, had taken the worst of it, and he could feel the living armor struggling to maintain cohesion. When he opened his eyes and saw armored giants pointing what looked like oversized assault rifles at him, instinct took over. His chains lashed out, not to kill, not yet, but to understand. They wrapped around the nearest warrior's bolter, yanked it aside. Another chain caught a second warrior's weapon. He was on his feet before his conscious mind caught up, body moving through combat patterns drilled into him during his CIA years and honed through countless battles in Hell's alleys. These weren't demons. They weren't gangsters or mobsters or any of the filth he'd fought in New York's shadows. They were soldiers, professional, disciplined, and fast, faster than any human had a right to be. One of them, red armor decorated with golden chalices and blood drops, moved with inhuman speed, drawing a chainsword that roared to life with a sound like a chainsaw married to an industrial grinder. The blade came down in an arc that would have bisected Spawn from shoulder to hip. Would have. Spawn's cape billowed up, hardening into a shield that caught the chainsword's teeth. Sparks flew. The warrior's eyes widened behind his helmet. Surprised, Spawn realized that anything could stop that blow. "Stand down!" The red warrior's voice boomed through external speakers, augmented to carry over the screaming chainsword. "In the name of the Emperor and Sanguinius, stand down or we will end you." Emperor? Sanguinius? Spawn had no idea what those words meant, but he understood the tone. Submit or die. His chains retracted, slowly. His cape settled around him like folded wings. He raised his hands, not in surrender, but in a gesture that said, "I'm listening." "Where?" His voice came out rough, distorted by the journey through whatever hell dimension he'd just traversed. "Where am I?" The warriors didn't lower their weapons. Smart. "You stand on Baal Secundus, homeworld of the Blood Angels chapter of the Adeptus Astartes," the red warrior said, each word crisp and formal. "You have arrived through unsanctioned warp transit. You will submit to interrogation and sanctioning, or you will be destroyed. These are your only choices." Spawn looked at the weapons pointed at him, looked at the warriors, easily 8 feet tall in their armor, radiating threat like heat from a furnace. Looked past them at the massive fortress in the distance, a cathedral of war cast in red stone and adamantium. And he laughed, not from humor, from the exhausted irony of a man who'd escaped hell only to land in what looked like another version of it. "Blood angels," he said, tasting the words. His suit pulsed, responding to his resignation. "Of course. I fall out of the sky, and I land with angels." He lowered his hands, met the warrior's gaze through that crimson helm. "Fine. Take me to whoever's in charge. But I warn you, where I come from, angels don't always play for the right team." Brother Sergeant Dante's hand tightened on his chainsword. Something about those words felt like prophecy. The reclusium chamber of the Blood Angels Fortress Monastery had witnessed countless interrogations over 10 millennia. Heretics, Xenos prisoners, even corrupted brothers brought back from the edge of damnation. Its walls were carved with litanies of purity, its ceiling painted with scenes of Sanguinius confronting the arch-traitor Horus aboard the vengeful spirit. Purity seals hung from chains, and the air itself seemed heavy with the weight of faith. Spawn stood in the center, surrounded by a ring of blood angels. No restraints. They'd tried, and his chains had simply dissolved the bindings like acid through paper. Now they watched him with weapons ready, while Captain Erastos circled slowly, studying him the way a master surgeon studies a tumor before deciding where to cut. "You claim ignorance of the Imperium," Erastos said, his voice measured. "You claim no knowledge of the God Emperor, of Holy Terror, of the Adeptus Astartes. Yet you speak Gothic. You understand our words." "Yeah, that's been bothering me too," Spawn admitted. His symbiote had adapted quickly, too quickly. K7 Letha was learning this reality's rules faster than he was, translating not just language, but context. He could feel the suit drinking in information from the very air, analyzing these warriors at a level that made his skull ache. "Where I come from, we don't have emperors. We don't have 8-foot-tall armored zealots who talk about angels and purity like it's their job description." "It is our job description," Brother Sergeant Dante said flatly from his position by the door. "We are the Emperor's wrath made manifest. We are the inheritors of the great angel's legacy. And you," he gestured with his bolter, "you reek of the warp." "The what?" The room went silent. Several blood angels exchanged glances that Spawn couldn't read through their helmets, but he felt the temperature drop. Erastos raised one gauntleted hand. "You truly don't know." It wasn't a question. "Either you are the most convincing heretic I've encountered in 3 centuries, or you are telling the truth, which would be infinitely more troubling." He moved closer, and Spawn tensed. Up close, the captain was intimidating in a way that went beyond physical size. There was an intensity in how he moved, a barely contained fury that reminded Spawn of soldiers who'd seen too much combat, except this man had somehow turned that rage into discipline instead of breakdown. "The warp," Erastos began, his tone shifting into something almost pedagogical, "is the immaterium, the realm of souls and demons, of the ruinous powers who would see all of humanity enslaved or destroyed. It is both our means of faster-than-light travel and our greatest enemy. And you, stranger, carry energies that resonate with it, yet are fundamentally different." Spawn felt his symbiote pulse. K7 Letha was reacting to something in the captain's words, recognizing patterns. "You're talking about hell," he said slowly. "Demons. The places between places where the damned go." A crude approximation, but not entirely inaccurate. Erastos stopped circling. "Tell me your name. Your true name." "Al Simmons." The words came automatically. "Lieutenant Colonel, United States Marine Corps, before I went CIA Black Ops. Before I died. Before I came back as..." He gestured at himself, at the living armor. "This. You died." Brother Apothecary Ramos stepped forward, his white armor marked with the red helix of his order. Medical sensors in his gauntlet activated, scanning Spawn with Auspex arrays designed to analyze gene seed implantation. "Explain." So Spawn did. Not everything. Some things were too personal, too raw, but enough. He told them about his assassination, about Malabolja's deal, about waking in an alley with powers he didn't ask for and a mission he never wanted. He told them about Hell's armies, about fighting demons and gangsters and corrupt politicians in equal measure. He told them about the symbiote, about the finite power he'd once had, about learning that damnation wasn't a permanent state if you fought hard enough against it. The Blood Angels listened in silence. When Spawn finished, Erastos turned to Ramos. "Apothecary, your assessment." "His physiology is wrong, Captain. Human baseline, or was, but infused with something that registers as both biological and energy-based. The armor isn't armor at all. It's a living organism in symbiosis with his body. His cellular structure shows signs of death and reanimation, but sustained by the energy signature we detected. If I didn't know better, I'd say he was a form of sanctioned psyker, but the energy doesn't match warp phenomena patterns. Because it's not from your warp," Spawn interjected. "It's from somewhere else. Another kind of hell, maybe, but a different one." "There is only one hell," Brother Sergeant Dante said coldly. "The warp and its dark gods. To claim otherwise is heresy." "Then I guess I'm a heretic from a whole other reality, because I'm telling you, Malabolja, the demons I fought, they're not the same as whatever ruinous powers you keep mentioning." Erastos raised his hand again, forestalling Dante's response. "Peace, brother. If this Spawn speaks truth, then he represents something unprecedented, a soul damned and redeemed, or attempting redemption from a hell outside the warp's influence. The theological implications alone would require a conclave of chaplains to debate. Or, Dante countered, he's a demon playing an elaborate deception, testing our defenses, learning our ways before the real assault begins. Spawn's chains rattled, not threatening, more like a cat's tail twitching in irritation. "If I wanted you dead, soldier, you'd be dead. I've killed demons that could tear apart city blocks. I've fought angels and made them bleed. I'm standing here talking because I choose to, not because I'm afraid of your guns." The temperature in the room dropped another degree. Every Blood Angel's hand moved fractionally toward their weapons. "You threaten us?" Erastos's voice could have cut ceramite. I'm stating facts. Spawn met his gaze without flinching. You want to know what I am? I'm a weapon. A broken weapon trying to figure out how not to be used. I didn't ask to come here. I don't want to fight you. But I've been to hell and back, literally. And I'm not afraid of dying again. So either help me figure out where I am and how to get home, or pull those triggers and find out if I'm as dangerous as your instincts are telling you. For 10 long seconds, nobody moved. Spawn could feel K7 letha coiling beneath his skin, preparing for violence. Could feel the necroplasm reserves pooling, ready to explode outward in chains and hellfire and raw fury. Then Erastos did something unexpected. He removed his helmet. The face beneath was scarred, noble, with eyes that burned with inner fire. Not metaphorically. There was a literal red glow to them, a bloodlust barely contained. I am Captain Erastos of the Blood Angels' Third Company, son of Sanguinius, servant of the Emperor. And I have looked into the eyes of demons, of heretics, of every form of corruption the galaxy can produce. When I look at you, Spawn, I see anger. I see pain. I see a warrior who's been used and broken and is still fighting. He stepped closer until they were arm's length apart. What I don't see is corruption. Not yet. So here is my judgment. You will remain with us. You will be watched. And when the next threat comes, and it always comes, you will fight beside us. We will measure your worth in blood and battle. If you prove true, perhaps you'll find a place among angels. If you prove false, you'll kill me. Yeah, I got it. Spawn's chains settled. When's the next fight? A klaxon shrieked through the fortress. Red emergency lighting flooded the reclusium. Brother Sergeant Dante's Vox crackled to life with urgent reports. Contact! Multiple Xenos biosignatures detected in the southern wastes. Tyrannid vanguard organisms. Estimated strength. Emperor's blood, they're everywhere. Erastos's smile was predatory. He replaced his helmet with a smooth motion. Your timing, Spawn, is either providence or damnation. He turned to his brothers. 2 arms. The hive mind comes for bail. Spawn felt his symbiote surge with anticipation. Monsters. Finally, something he understood. Point me at them, he said. Let's see if your angels can keep up with something from hell. The southern wastes of Bol Secundus were a nightmare landscape, even before the Tyrannids arrived. Radioactive sand dunes, jagged rock formations that looked like the bones of dead gods, and a sky that perpetually bled crimson. Now, as Spawn rode in the deployment Rhino with 4th Squad, he watched through the vision port as that nightmare came alive. They moved like a living carpet across the desert. Hormagaunts, Brother Sergeant Dante had called them. Insectoid monsters the size of large dogs, running on 4 scything limbs with 2 more raised like mantis claws. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Behind them, larger shapes lumbered. Tyrannid warriors, their carapaces gleaming like oil-slick chitin, bioweapons that looked grown rather than built, already spitting acid and living ammunition. This is a probe. Erastos's voice came through the Vox system, calm despite the approaching swarm. The hive mind tests our defenses. It learns with every encounter. Show no mercy. These creatures exist only to consume and adapt. Spawn's hands flexed. K7. Letha pulsed eagerly against his skin. After the interrogation, he'd expected time to recover, to learn more about this insane universe. Instead, he was riding into battle with gene-forged super soldiers against alien swarms that sounded like something out of a sci-fi horror film. Just another day ending in Y, he thought bitterly. The Rhino's rear ramp slammed open. Blood angels poured out in perfect formation, bolters roaring before their boots hit sand. Mass reactive rounds tore through hormigaunt carapaces, each shell exploding inside alien flesh with wet detonations. The creatures shrieked, not in pain, Spawn realized, but in communication, calling to their swarm mates, coordinating. Spawn leaped from the transport, and the desert exploded into violence. A hormigaunt lunged at him, claws extended to disembowel. His chains shot forward, wrapped around its throat and yanked. The creature's head separated from its body with a sound like tearing wet cardboard. Two more came from his flanks. K7. Letha responded faster than conscious thought, sprouting spikes that impaled both creatures mid-leap. "Spread out!" Erastus's command cut through the chaos. "Overlapping fields of fire! Let none reach the fortress!" The Blood Angels moved like they were born to this. No wasted motion. Every shot placed with surgical precision. When hormigants got too close, chainswords roared to life, turning alien flesh into mulch. Brother Sergeant Dante fought like a berserker poet, each swing of his blade perfect, efficient, beautiful in its lethality. But there were so many. For every tyrannid that fell, 3 more seemed to take its place. The swarm adapted in real time. Creatures began dodging bolter fire, moving in patterns that suggested intelligence far beyond animal cunning. A tyrannid warrior leveled its bioweapon at Spawn, and he felt K7 Letha scream a warning a split second before a stream of acid erupted from the weapon's maw. His cape billowed up, hardening into a shield. The acid splashed against living tissue that hissed and smoked, but held. Spawn's chains lashed out, wrapped around the warrior's weapon limb and squeezed. The appendage ruptured, spraying ichor. The creature shrieked and charged. Spawn met it head on. His fist, wrapped in necroplasmic energy, drove into the warrior's chest with enough force to crack its carapace. Green hellfire erupted from the impact point, and the creature's entire torso cavity ignited from within. It collapsed, twitching, its synapse connections severed by energies that had no place in this universe's biology. "Throne!" Brother Valorian's voice carried shock. "What was that?" "Just getting warmed up." Spawn's chains whipped through the swarm like scythes through wheat. Each strike left trails of green fire that the tyrannids seemed almost afraid of. Not the survival instinct fear of pain, but something deeper. His power was wrong to them, alien even to aliens. A roar split the air, deeper, more primal than the hormigaunt's chittering. Something massive crested a sand dune. A carnifex. Brother Dante identified over the Vox, a living tank of muscle and armor plating, with biocannons mounted on its shoulders and crushing claws that could pulp a space marine in full plate. "Heavy weapons! Converge on—" Erastus's order cut off as the carnifex accelerated, moving with horrifying speed for something that size. It was heading straight for a cluster of blood angels reloading their bolters. Spawn moved on instinct. His chains shot forward, found purchase on the carnifex's armored hide, and he pulled. Not to stop it, he wasn't strong enough for that, but to redirect. The creature's momentum shifted, its charge veering off course. Instead of crushing 5 blood angels, it slammed into empty sand, carving a trench as it skidded. Then it turned on Spawn. K7. Letha screamed a warning. The Carnifex's bioplasma weapon charged with a sound like a capacitor building to overload. At this range, the blast would vaporize him. But Spawn wasn't alone. For Sanguinius! The war cry came from 3 directions simultaneously. Blood angels converged with crack grenades, melter charges, and focused bolter fire. The Carnifex's armored hide cracked. One eye cluster exploded. Its bioplasma weapon misfired, the energy backwashing through its own nervous system. Spawn saw his opening. He teleported, a short jump that felt like pushing through molasses in this reality, K7 Letha struggling with the dimensional mechanics, and materialized on the creature's back. His chains plunged into the wound the blood angels had created, burrowing deep into alien flesh. And then he ignited them. Necroplasm flooded the Carnifex's body cavity. The creature's roar turned into something wet and agonized as green hellfire cooked it from the inside. It thrashed once, twice, then collapsed, smoke pouring from every orifice. Spawn rolled off its corpse, breathing hard. Using power like that in this universe hurt. It was like lifting weights in water. Every action required 3 times the normal effort, and the backlash left him feeling drained in a way that shouldn't have been possible. That was well struck, Erastos said, appearing at his side. The captain's armor was drenched in tyrannid ichor, but his voice carried satisfaction. You fight like you've done this before. Different monsters, same principle. Spawn straightened, scanning the battlefield. The swarm was retreating, not fleeing, but pulling back in organized waves, learning, adapting. They're not done. No. The hive mind never is. Erastos turned to his squad. Casualty report. Brother Matthias sustained acid damage to his left pauldron. Brother Christos lost 3 fingers to a hormigaunt's claw. Nothing critical. Apothecary Ramos was already moving between wounded, his Narthexium Medicis servitors working to patch armor and flesh. Spawn watched the blood angels regroup with military efficiency. No panic, no hesitation, just professionals doing their job in the face of extinction-level horror. He'd fought alongside Marines in his old life, but these were something else entirely. Then he noticed Brother Sergeant Dante staring at him. Not with suspicion, with something that looked like recognition. Your flames, Dante said slowly. When you killed that warrior, the green fire, I've seen something like it before. Yeah? Where? In the Red Dream. Dante's voice went quiet. The visions that come to us. The curse of our Primarch's death. Sometimes, in the worst of them, I see fires that color. Fires that don't belong to the warp or the materium. Fires from elsewhere. A chill ran down Spawn's spine. What are you saying? I'm saying perhaps your arrival here wasn't accident. Dante's crimson lenses fixed on him. Perhaps something wanted you here, guided you, used you. Before Spawn could respond, alarms shrieked again. Brother Valorian's Auspex lit up with new contacts. Second wave incoming. Emperor's Mercy. They're coming from underground. The sand beneath their feet began to shift, to move, and Spawn realized with cold certainty that the Tyranids hadn't been retreating. They'd been leading the Blood Angels into position. Erastos drew his power sword, the blade igniting with blue energy. Form defensive perimeter. Spawn, if you have any more surprises, now would be an excellent time. Spawn's chains rattled as K7 Letha drew deep on his necroplasm reserves. He could feel the power draining faster than it should, burning through energy that should have lasted hours. This universe was hostile to him in ways he didn't fully understand yet. But he'd been fighting on borrowed time since the day he died. "Let them come," he growled. "I didn't crawl out of hell just to get eaten by space bugs." The sand erupted. Raveners, serpentine tyrannids with bladed limbs, burst upward in a coordinated strike. The battle's second phase began. And somewhere deep in Spawn's mind, beneath the combat instincts and survival reflexes, a terrible suspicion took root. Brother Sergeant Dante might be right. His arrival here might not have been chance. Something had pulled him into this universe. The question was why. The Raveners came from below like living spears, their segmented bodies designed for burrowing through solid rock. They erupted in a coordinated strike pattern that would have shattered any normal military formation. The Blood Angels were not normal. "Second rank! Flamers!" Erastus's command was instant. 3 Blood Angels stepped forward, Prometheum igniters roaring to life. Gouts of burning fuel turned sand to glass and raveners to shrieking torches. The creatures writhed, their accelerated metabolisms making them burn faster and hotter than any natural organism should. Spawn found himself fighting back-to-back with Brother Sergeant Dante, his chains weaving a perimeter of death while the Space Marine's bolter never stopped firing. It was a rhythm he'd known before, in Mogadishu, in Kosovo, in a dozen Black Ops missions where trust meant survival. The difference was that Dante moved with inhuman precision, each shot calibrated to hit weak points in chitin armor that Spawn couldn't even see. A Ravener lunged at them from the side. Spawn's cape intercepted, hardening into blades that carved through its midsection. Dante put 2 rounds through its head before the corpse hit the ground. "You fight well for a damned soul," Dante said, his tone almost conversational despite the chaos. "You're pretty good for a religious fanatic," Spawn shot back. He felt rather than heard Dante's laugh through the armor. Fair assessment. Then the ground shook, not from burrowing tyrannids, from something much larger. "Fall back." Erastus's voice carried urgency for the first time. "Trigon emergence. All units fall back to—" The desert exploded. What rose from beneath was the stuff of nightmares. Easily 40 feet long, a serpentine horror with a head like a fleshy drill, bit lined with rings of teeth. Its bioelectric aura crackled across its carapace, and even from 50 meters away, Spawn could feel the electromagnetic discharge making K7 Letha writhe uncomfortably. The Trigon's roar was subsonic, hitting like a physical force. 2 Blood Angels staggered. One fell to his knees, hands clutching his helmet. "The rage!" Brother Christos screamed, and Spawn heard something break in his voice. "The red dream calls. Father, I see." Christos charged the Trigon alone. No tactics, no strategy, just pure berserker fury, his chainsword screaming as he ran straight at a creature that could swallow him whole. "No! Christos, stand down!" Dante moved to intercept, but the Trigon was faster. Its head snapped forward with serpentine speed. Christos managed one wild swing before those circular teeth closed around him. There was a wet crunch. When the Trigon pulled back, Christos's legs fell separately from his torso, hydraulic fluids and blood mixing in the sand. "Brother!" Dante's anguish was raw, painful to hear even through Vox distortion. The Trigon swallowed, then turned its attention to the rest of them. Spawn felt rage ignite in his chest, not the measured anger he'd learned to control, but something primal. He'd seen good soldiers die before. He'd caused deaths he regretted. But watching that warrior get butchered while suffering from some kind of psychotic break hit too close to his own experiences with manipulation and loss of control. "Everyone get back!" Spawn's chains erupted from his body in a corona of necroplasmic energy, K7. Letha responded to his fury, drawing deep on reserves that screamed warnings about depletion. He didn't care. The Hellspawn charged. "Spawn! No!" Erastus's command came too late. Spawn teleported mid-stride. The dimensional shift felt like pushing through broken glass, and he tasted blood, rematerializing directly on the Trigon's head. His chains plunged into the gaps between armored plates, burrowing deep into alien flesh. The creature bucked, trying to throw him off, but he held on with superhuman strength augmented by necroplasm. "You want to eat soldiers," Spawn snarled. "Eat this!" He ignited. Green hellfire poured from his hands, from his chains, from every point of contact with the Trigon's body. Not the controlled burns he'd used before. This was rage given form, the fury of a man who'd been used, broken and damned by powers beyond his control, now facing a creature that embodied mindless consumption and violation. The Trigon screamed. Its bioelectric discharge went haywire, lightning arcing across its body and into Spawn. Pain exploded through every nerve ending. K7 Letha shrieked warnings. His vision went white, but he didn't let go. "How many?" Spawn's voice was barely human, distorted by necroplasm and fury. "How many worlds have you eaten? How many soldiers like Christos have you murdered?" The hellfire burned hotter. The Trigon's armored plates began to crack, to melt. Ichor boiled. The creature's movements became frantic, then sluggish, then weak. Then it fell. Spawn rolled off its corpse, smoke rising from his body. K7. Letha was damaged. He could feel tears in the symbiote's structure, places where the bioelectric discharge had burned through necroplasmic tissue. His power reserves were dangerously low, maybe 30% of what he'd arrived with. Using that much energy in one burst had nearly killed him. Worth it. Strong hands grabbed his shoulders. Erastos, lifting him to his feet with effortless strength. That was either the bravest or most foolish thing I've witnessed in 3 centuries. The captain's tone was unreadable. "You nearly died." "Yeah, well," Spawn spat blood. "Wouldn't be the first time." The remaining Tyranids were retreating now, for real. The hive mind had learned what it needed. The swarm melted back into the wastes like a nightmare at dawn, leaving only corpses and the lingering stench of alien biochemistry. Apothecary Ramos knelt beside Christos's remains, performing the sacred duty of gene seed extraction. His movements were reverent despite the carnage. "His progenoid glands are intact," he reported quietly. "His legacy will continue." Brother Sergeant Dante stood apart from the others, his posture rigid. Spawn recognized that stance, the way a soldier held himself when grief was trying to break through discipline. He'd stood that way at Wanda's funeral, at his own memorial service, watching from the shadows as they buried an empty coffin. Spawn approached carefully. "You okay?" "Christos was my battle brother for 70 years. Dante's voice was controlled, but barely. "The red thirst has taken brothers before. The black rage is our curse, our legacy from the great angel's death. But to see it happen, to be unable to prevent it." He turned to face Spawn. "You avenged him. That matters. I killed a monster. That's different than revenge." "Is it?" Dante's helmeted head tilted slightly. "You fought with a fury that went beyond tactics, beyond survival. I know rage when I see it, Spawn. I carry it in my blood every moment of my existence. The question is, what drives yours? Spawn looked at his hands. K7. Letha was slowly repairing itself, knitting torn tissue back together, but the process was agonizingly slow in this universe. I was a weapon, he said quietly. Malebolgia made me into his tool. Every time I use these powers, I wonder if I'm still dancing on his strings, if somewhere in hell he's laughing at me. Then you understand our curse. Dante gestured at his brothers, at the fortress in the distance. We are weapons too. Forged by the Emperor, refined by Sanguinius, cursed by his death. Every day we fight against the rage that wants to consume us. Every day we choose to be more than our nature. And some days you lose that fight. Yes. The admission was painful. Some days the rage wins, but we keep fighting anyway, because the alternative is to surrender to it completely, to become nothing but the weapon others made us. Spawn studied the Blood Angel. Beneath all the rhetoric about emperors and primarchs, beneath the religious zealotry and genetic modification, Dante was speaking about something Spawn understood intimately: the struggle to remain human when everything in your nature pushed you toward monstrosity. Erastus's voice cut through the moment. Transport inbound. We return to the fortress. Spawn, you'll accompany us to the Reclusium. Chaplain Moria wishes to speak with you. The chaplain. Spawn felt K7 Letha tense. That sounds ominous. It should. Erastus's tone was grave. You've proven yourself in battle. You've shed blood alongside the Blood Angels and honored our fallen. But questions remain about your nature, your origin, and your purpose here. Chaplain Moria is our spiritual guide, our keeper of truth, if any can determine whether you're blessed or cursed. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. As the Rhino transport approached, Spawn looked back at the Trigon's corpse, still smoking with residual hellfire. He'd fought beside angels today, killed monsters, saved lives. But Brother Sergeant Dante's words echoed in his mind. Perhaps your arrival here wasn't accident. If something had guided him here, it had a reason. And, in Spawn's experience, when cosmic powers moved mortals around like chess pieces, it was never for the mortals' benefit. The transport's ramp lowered. The Blood Angels boarded with military efficiency. Spawn followed, his chains hanging limp around him, his power reserves dangerously low. Whatever waited in the Reclusium, whatever judgment this Chaplain Moria had prepared, Spawn would face it the same way he faced everything, like a stubborn bastard too angry to stay dead. Chaplain Moria was a monument to faith and fury wrapped in black ceramite. His skull-faced helmet was a deliberate memento mori, a reminder that death served the Emperor just as life did. Rosarius beads hung from his armor, each one a prayer seal or purity marking earned through centuries of spiritual warfare. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute conviction. "Sit," he commanded. Spawn remained standing. "I'm good." The Reclusium's inner sanctum was smaller than the interrogation chamber, more intimate. Stained glass windows depicted Sanguinius in various poses of martyrdom and triumph. Candles burned with flames that seemed too red to be natural. And everywhere, carved into walls, etched into floors, hanging from chains, were Aquilas, the two-headed eagle symbol of the Imperium. Moria studied him in silence for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he removed his helmet. The face beneath was scarred, ancient, with eyes that burned with the same barely contained fury Spawn had seen in every blood angel. But there was something else there too, a terrible sadness, the kind that came from watching brothers fall for 10,000 years. "Captain Erastos tells me you fought well," Moria said. "Brother Sergeant Dante claims you saved his life. Apothecary Ramos reports that your physiological readings are unlike anything in Imperial records." He leaned forward. "But I am not concerned with what you did. I am concerned with what you are." "I already explained—" "You explained nothing." Moria's interruption was sharp. "You offered a narrative, a story of damnation and resurrection, but stories can be lies. Demons are expert liars. They wear faces of martyrs and speak with voices of angels. So I ask you now, directly, what claim does hell have on your soul?" Spawn felt K7 Letha stir defensively. "Malabolgia doesn't own me anymore. I broke his contract. I fought my way free." "Did you?" Moria stood, walking to a nearby table where various implements lay. A Croceus Arcanum, prayer scrolls, and what looked disturbingly like torture devices blessed with holy oils. "Or did he simply loosen your leash? A demon of sufficient power could orchestrate events across realities, could guide a fallen warrior to a battlefield where his unique talents would be useful." The implication hit like a physical blow. "You think I'm a plant, a sleeper agent?" "I think," Moria said carefully, "that coincidence is a luxury we cannot afford in the 41st millennium. You arrive through a warp anomaly. You carry powers that resonate with, but are distinct from, chaos corruption. You fight beside us against Xenos threats with convenient effectiveness. And Brother Sergeant Dante claims he has seen you in the Red Dream, in visions granted by our Primarch's psychic death scream." Spawn's hands clenched. "I didn't ask for any of this." "Neither did we." Moria picked up his Croceus Arcanum, a power maul topped with Aquila wings. Energy crackled along its length. "But here we stand, so I will test you, Spawn. Not with weapons. You've proven combat prowess. I will test your spirit." He approached, holding the Croceus like a divining rod. "This weapon is sanctified by the Emperor's grace. It burns with holy power drawn from 10 millennia of faith. If you are truly a soul seeking redemption, it will recognize that. If you are corrupted, if you serve darker masters." He let the threat hang. "You'll do what? Smite me?" "If necessary." Moria's conviction was absolute. The Emperor protects Spawn, but he also tests. "Will you submit to judgment?" Spawn looked at the crackling power weapon, at the chaplain's unwavering gaze, at the Aquila surrounding him like accusatory eyes. Every instinct screamed to refuse, to fight, to escape. He'd spent his second life avoiding exactly this kind of control, this submission to authority that claimed divine right to judge him. But he thought of Christos, consumed by rage and torn apart, thought of Dante's quiet grief, thought of these warriors who fought against literal demons while carrying their own curse in their blood. If they could face their damnation every day and choose to be better, maybe he could too. "Fine." Spawn extended his hand. "Do it." Moria brought the Croceus down. The impact wasn't physical, it was spiritual. Energy flooded through Spawn's body, and suddenly he was somewhere else, someone else. The Reclusiam dissolved into memory and nightmare. He was in the alley again. 5 years dead, freshly resurrected, staring at hands wrapped in living armor he didn't understand. Wanda's face on 1,000 magazine covers, married to his best friend. Malebolgia's laughter echoing from shadows. You are mine, Simmons. Every soul you fail to deliver, every moment of weakness, every choice you make, all of it serves me. You think you have free will? You are a weapon, nothing more. The scene shifted. He was fighting demons in New York sewers, chains tearing through demonic flesh, hellfire reducing violators' spawn to ash. But with each kill, he felt the counter ticking down, felt his power draining, felt Malebolgia's satisfaction bleeding through dimensions. Shift again. The green world. Heaven's agents offering salvation if he'd give up his humanity. Hell's legions promising power if he'd embrace his nature. And him, caught between, trying to find a third option that probably didn't exist. What are you fighting for? A voice, not Malebolgia's, something older, colder. You cannot save yourself. You cannot change what you are. Accept your purpose. No, Spawn's voice echoed through the vision space. I choose. I decide. I'm more than what you made me. The vision shattered. Spawn gasped back in the reclusiam, on his knees without remembering falling. K7. Letha was smoking, damaged by whatever spiritual energy the Crozius had channeled through him. Moria stood above him, the power weapon still humming. Interesting, the chaplain said quietly. That's all you've got? Spawn's voice was raw. Put me through hell, again, and all you can say is interesting. You resisted. Moria deactivated his Crozius. When the sacred energies touched your essence, they found corruption, but also defiance. You carry damnation, yes, but you also carry choice, free will exercised against the very powers that created you. He offered a gauntleted hand. That is not the mark of a demon's pawn. Spawn took the hand, let Moria pull him to his feet. So what am I? A warrior soul trapped between states of grace and damnation, fighting for something you barely understand. Moria's expression softened fractionally. In that, you are not so different from my brothers. We carry the curse of the red thirst, the black rage that consumed Christos. We are permanently balanced on the edge of heroism and monstrosity. The difference between a blood angel and a death company berserker is sometimes nothing more than a single moment of will. That's a hell of a way to live. It is the only way to live in the 41st millennium, to be constantly tested, to choose righteousness knowing you might fail. Moria walked to the stained glass depicting Sanguinius confronting Horus. Our Primarch faced the arch-traitor aboard the vengeful spirit. He knew he would die. He went anyway, because it was right. That single choice echoes through all his sons, 10,000 years later. Spawn studied the image, a winged angel in golden armor facing a corrupted giant. He lost. He won. Moria's correction was fierce. He wounded Horus in spirit, not just flesh, weakened him enough that the Emperor could finish what Sanguinius started. His death was not defeat, it was sacrifice, the ultimate expression of free will in service of something greater than himself. And you think that's what I should do? Sacrifice myself for your Emperor? I think, Moria said, that your arrival here presents an opportunity. The Imperium faces threats on every front. The hive mind adapts and evolves. Chaos never rests. And there are enemies even we don't fully understand lurking in the dark between stars. He turned to face Spawn directly. You carry powers that exist outside the warp. That makes you either a weapon or a liability. Which you become depends entirely on your choices from this moment forward. A vox chime interrupted. Captain Erastos's voice crackled through the chapel's comm system. "Chaplain, we have urgent developments. Long-range Auspex has detected a chaos signature emerging from the warp. Strike cruiser class. Traitor Astartes." Moria's expression hardened. "Which legion?" "Heraldry matches. Blood Angels, Chaplain. Twisted, corrupted, but Blood Angels iconography. It appears we face fallen brothers." The temperature in the Reclusiam seemed to drop 10 degrees. Moria's jaw clenched, his hands tightening on his Crozius. The Death Company, lost brothers consumed by the Black Rage and twisted by chaos. The greatest shame of our chapter. He looked at Spawn with eyes that burned with cold fury. "You asked what you should do. Here is your answer. We go to war against the worst reflections of ourselves. You will see what we become when we lose the battle against our nature. And then, Spawn, you will choose. Fight beside us against damnation, or prove yourself just another fallen soul." Spawn felt K7 Letha pulse weakly. His power reserves were still low, his symbiote damaged. He was exhausted, spiritually drained, and facing a battle against corrupted super soldiers who were apparently this chapter's nightmare made manifest. He should refuse, should demand rest, recovery, should play it smart. Instead, he met Moria's gaze and said, "When do we leave?" The chaplain's smile was predatory. "Immediately. Welcome to the Crusade, Hellspawn. Let us see if the damned can help redeem the fallen." The Blade of Sanguinius was a strike cruiser that had seen 10,000 years of warfare. Its hull bore scars from battles against every enemy the Imperium had faced. Lance burns from Chaos battleships, acid scoring from Tyrannid bioships, impact craters from Orc ramming attacks. Now it cut through the void toward a target that made even veteran Blood Angels tense with barely contained fury. Spawn stood in the observation deck, watching the corrupted vessel grow larger. Even from this distance, he could see it was wrong. The ship's architecture mimicked Blood Angel's design, but twisted, spires bent at unnatural angles, hull plating grown over with what looked like organic matter, and a crimson glow emanating from its engine ports that seemed more like bleeding wounds than propulsion systems. "The Crimson Despair," Captain Erastos said, joining him at the viewport. His armor was fully sealed now, preparing for void combat. "Once the noble sacrifice, a proud vessel of our Third Company. Lost 400 years ago to a warp storm. We thought all hands perished. Apparently, we were wrong. They joined chaos instead. Not by choice. Not at first." Erastos's voice carried profound grief. "The Black Rage consumed them in the warp's depths. Without chaplains to guide them, without the Emperor's light to sustain them, they fell. Chaos found them in their madness and offered purpose." Spawn studied the corrupted ship. "You feel responsible. I was captain when we lost them. I made the decision to abandon the search after 3 months, declare them martyred so their families could have closure." His hands clenched. "Every brother lost to the Rage is my failure. Every soul twisted by chaos is a stain on my honor. That's a lot of guilt to carry. It is our burden." Erastos turned from the viewport. "But today, we have a chance for redemption, ours and theirs. We will board that vessel. We will face our fallen brothers. And we will grant them the Emperor's mercy, even if we must deliver it through bolter and blade. You're going to kill them. We are going to free them." The correction was gentle but firm. Death is not an ending in the 41st millennium, Spawn. It is a transition. For loyal servants of the Emperor, It means reunion with him at the Golden Throne. For our fallen brothers, trapped in eternal rage and chaos corruption, it means release from torment. We gift them peace the only way they can receive it. Spawn thought about his own death, his resurrection, the countless times he'd walked the line between damned and redeemed. And if they don't want your mercy, then we will give it anyway. Erastos' tone carried absolute finality. This is what it means to be a blood angel. We do not abandon our brothers, even when they are lost to us, especially when they are lost to us. The Vox crackled. Boarding teams, to your Thunderhawks. Chaplain Moria will lead the spiritual assault. Captain Erastos commands tactical operations. All units, this is a mercy mission. Remember, they are still our brothers beneath the corruption. Honor them with clean deaths. Spawn followed the Blood Angels to the launch bay. 40 Space Marines in crimson plate, weapons blessed and anointed, every face behind every helmet carrying the same expression of grim determination. Chaplain Moria led them in prayer, his voice echoing through the vaulted space. Emperor, guide our hands. Sanguinius, watch over your sons, both those who serve and those who have fallen. Grant us the strength to deliver mercy. Grant our lost brothers the peace they deserve. In death, may they find the redemption denied them in life. In death, redemption, the Blood Angels chorused. Spawn didn't join the prayer. He wasn't sure the Emperor would listen to something from hell. But he checked his chains, felt K7 Letha's readiness despite lingering damage, and prepared for what was coming. Brother Sergeant Dante approached, his armor freshly painted with oaths of vengeance for Christos. You don't have to do this. This is our shame to cleanse. You fought beside me against the Tyranids, Spawn replied. Figure I owe you. We are not friends, Spawn. We are allies of convenience. Yeah, well, sometimes that's enough. The Thunderhawk's assault ramp closed with hydraulic finality. The gunship shuddered as it launched from the blade of Sanguinius, crossing the void toward the corrupted vessel. Through the viewport, Spawn watched the Crimson Despair grow larger, more grotesque. Its hull rippled like living flesh. Faces seemed to press against the metal from within, screaming silently. 30 seconds to breach, the pilot announced. Moria raised his Crozius. Remember, they were brothers once. They died defending the Imperium. What walks their ship now are only echoes, twisted by the warp. We honor their memory by granting them final rest. The Thunderhawk's assault cannon fired, tearing through corrupted hull plating. The gunship slammed into the breach, maglocks engaging. The ramp dropped. Hell poured out to meet them. The fallen Blood Angels were nightmares given form. Their armor had fused with mutated flesh, crimson ceramite now grown over with bone spurs and weeping sores. Their faces, those that still had faces, were locked in expressions of eternal rage and anguish. Some had wings that looked like Sanguinius's, but twisted and leathery. Others had grown additional limbs that ended in talons or bioweapons. But worst of all, they were still recognizable, still wore the heraldry of their companies, still carried weapons that bore inscriptions of loyalty and faith. For the Emperor! Erastos' war cry was answered by the corrupted mockery. For the Blood God! The corridors of the Crimson Despair became a slaughterhouse. Bolters roared. Chainswords screamed. Blood, both crimson and black ichor corrupted, painted every surface. The fallen Blood Angels fought with berserker fury amplified by chaos gifts, but they'd lost all discipline, all tactics. They simply charged, howling, driven by rage that had consumed their souls 400 years ago. Spawn's chains tore through corrupted flesh. His hellfire burned away mutations. But with each fallen angel he killed, he felt something twist in his chest. These weren't demons. They weren't gangsters or corrupt politicians. They were soldiers who'd lost a battle against their own nature, and now they were being put down like rabid dogs. "Keep moving!" Moria's voice cut through the carnage. "The bridge. We must reach the bridge." They fought through corridors slick with blood and worse things, past chapels desecrated with 8-pointed stars, past armories where bolters had been twisted into profane shapes, past crew quarters where they found the desiccated remains of mortal crew, sacrificed to feed the ship's warp corruption. Brother Sergeant Dante fought like a man possessed, each kill mechanical, efficient, empty. Spawn recognized that look, the 1,000-yard stare of someone doing necessary evil and dying inside with each act. A corrupted blood angel lunged from shadows, claws extended toward Dante's exposed neck joint. Spawn's chains intercepted, wrapped around the creature's throat, squeezed. It thrashed once, twice, then went limp. Dante didn't acknowledge the save, just kept moving forward, bolter firing, leaving corpses in his wake. They reached the bridge. The corruption here was overwhelming. The command throne had grown into the deck plating, fused with what had once been a space marine, but was now more demon than man. Its armor was barely recognizable, grown over with bone and flesh that pulsed with obscene life. But its eyes, when they opened, were still the red of a blood angel, and they wept tears of blood. "Brothers," its voice was a chorus of anguish and rage. "Have you come to finally grant mercy?" Captain Erastos stepped forward, removing his helmet. Tears streamed down his scarred face. "Brother Captain Matthias, I am sorry. I am so terribly sorry." "Erastos," recognition flickered in those tortured eyes. 400 years, trapped in rage, in hunger, the warp showed us such sights. Its body convulsed. "Please, end it. End us." Chaplain Moria raised his Crozius. "Brother Captain Matthias of the Blood Angels' 3rd Company. By the authority granted me as chaplain and keeper of our spiritual legacy, I release you from service. May the Emperor embrace you. May Sanguinius guide you home." "Home!" Matthias's corrupted form shuddered. "I want to go home." Moria brought the Crozius down. Holy energy flooded the bridge. The corrupted flesh screamed, burning away like fog before sunrise. For just a moment, one perfect heartbeat, Spawn saw them. Not the corrupted monstrosities, but the blood angels they'd been. Proud warriors in crimson plate, wings of gold, standing at attention as if on parade. Then they were gone, released, free. The crimson despair began to die around them. Without the corrupted soul sustaining its warp-tainted existence, the vessel was just metal and void. Alarms shrieked. Bulkheads collapsed. "Back to the Thunderhawks!" Erastos's command was hoarse. "All units, extract now!" They ran through dying corridors, past the corpses of fallen brothers, racing against structural collapse. The Thunderhawk's engines screamed at maximum burn, tearing away from the disintegrating hulk just as the Crimson Despair's reactor went critical. The explosion was silent in the void, beautiful in its way, like a funeral pyre for warriors who'd waited 4 centuries for peace. Inside the Thunderhawk, blood angels knelt in prayer. Some wept openly, Others sat in silence, processing what they'd done, what they'd had to do. Spawn found Brother Sergeant Dante staring at nothing, hands still gripping his bolter. They were soldiers, Dante said quietly. Good soldiers. They didn't deserve that fate. No, Spawn agreed. They didn't. But you understand, don't you, what it means to be used, to have your nature turned against you, to fight every day against becoming the monster others expect. Spawn looked at his hands, at the chains coiling around his wrists. Yeah, I understand. Dante finally looked at him. Then maybe you do belong here, in this hell we call the 41st millennium, where damnation is always one moment of weakness away, and redemption is measured in the enemies you kill and the brothers you save. That's a pretty grim philosophy. It's the only philosophy that works. Dante's grip on his bolter relaxed fractionally. Welcome to the Blood Angels, Spawn. Welcome to the Eternal Crusade. 3 weeks after the purging of the Crimson Despair, Spawn stood on the ramparts of the Fortress Monastery, watching Baal's twin suns set in radioactive glory. K7. Letha had finally recovered, adapting to this universe's hostile physics. His necroplasm reserves had stabilized at roughly 70% efficiency, not perfect, but sustainable. Behind him, Blood Angels went about their eternal vigil, training, praying, preparing for the next war that would inevitably come. Captain Erastos approached, his footsteps deliberately loud to announce his presence. The chaplaincy has reached consensus. You are to be granted limited autonomy within Blood Angels' territory. Not a brother. You can never be that, lacking Sanguinius's gene seed, but an auxiliary, a weapon pointed at our enemies. Always a weapon, Spawn said without bitterness. Just acceptance. Yes, but a weapon that chooses its targets, that matters. Erastos paused. Brother Sergeant Dante requested you be assigned to his squad permanently. He says you understand the fight against our own nature better than most. Spawn thought about Christos, consumed by rage, about Matthias, trapped for 4 centuries in chaos-fueled torment, about the Blood Angels who walked the knife's edge between heroism and damnation every single day. I spent years trying to escape hell, he said quietly. Turns out, hell's everywhere, even here. Especially here. But you keep fighting anyway. Yeah, I keep fighting. Erastos placed one massive gauntleted hand on Spawn's shoulder, the first time he'd touched him without hostility. Then you are exactly where you need to be. The Emperor protects, Spawn. Even souls from beyond the stars. As the captain walked away, Spawn looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Malebolgia might be laughing. Or maybe not. Maybe, just maybe, this was exactly where he needed to be. A warrior soul, forever caught between damnation and redemption, finding purpose in the only place that understood that struggle. The 41st millennium. Home. The Emperor protects. More stories await. If you enjoyed the ride through the Grimdark, feel free to subscribe to this channel, like the video, and turn on notifications. You'll get an alert every day at 6 p.m. EST when new stories drop. Your support helps keep these tales alive in a universe where hope is in short supply.